had
in.
no more access.
And also, I think, because remember, Need and all of the girls leaked, when was that? Around Red TV? So after they were banned from the hallowed halls, I would assume. There's nobody around to guard the chambers. So
and
Need and all of
too.
the girls leaked. And Drama
Queen.
I forgot about that. I forgot about Drama Queen.
My favorite song in the world.
Woo! I forgot about that.
You're a heartbreaker. She's a little drama queen.
But she's still not me. Some people are saying that. Some people are saying it.
Some people are saying that. Well, they had heard the Reputation tracks, full tracks.
And they should die for that.
Mm-hmm. Family.
I'll find them.
And I think they allege there was a song called Party Like It's 1989. I would like to see it.
And if there was a song called Party Like It's 1989,
we would have it.
You're telling me that she wasn't going to put that on the 1989 vault track? When she's putting anything on these vaults, let's call a spade a spade. There are some songs that are quieting me to this day that are on vaults, but she kept Party Like It's 1989 to herself. That sounds like worldwide #1 hit in my mind. So where is it?
Well, Madeline, we say that, but we said Castle's Crumbling, worldwide #1 hit. And what was it?
Now, let's not start keeping score. Let's not start keeping score. Castle's Crumbling, that was probably one of the darkest moments of my life when I listened to that song. That was one of my top 5 disappointments as a Swiftie. Yeah, it really was. And you know what? It's nobody's fault. It's not Taylor's fault.
No,
it's certainly not Hayley Williams' fault. Certainly not Hayley's fault. She is nothing but an accomplice. But I built it up in my head for so long, and I had a specific idea of it being like a pop punk sort of Speak Now, Story of Us kind of a moment. And, well, I didn't receive that.
It was not that. I mean, there are so many Taylor moments where, especially with songs, where you just build up a story in your head of what it's going to be, and then it just ends up being something completely different, and not even necessarily bad, just different. Mine was Starlight. I had a completely different idea of what a track like Starlight was going to be, and when I heard it, I said, now what the hell is this?
That's something that I really, really loved about the surprise release of Folklore and Evermore, is that we didn't know any preconceived notion. It was just here.
No time to make our delusions.
This is not the time or the place, but I'm going to say it. I need the Third Sister record, and I need it. I need a surprise. I need it dumped into my hands. I need to not have to listen to fan theories for 2 straight months like I had to for Torture Poets. I need to not build anything up in my head. I need to be free. I need to be free, and I want to press play on piano chords, and that's it.
And sob my way through a record. Mm-hmm. Is that too much to ask?
I don't think it is.
What's your next question for Taylor?
So, my next question for Taylor is, would you change anything about your career choices up to this point? Whose phone calls would you not answer, and who would you not trust?
Ooh, that is a great, great question. Well, I mean, we have an obvious answer with Scooter Braun. Someone informed me the other day that he was at her 2015 birthday party. Did you know that?
Was that the one where they were...
Beyonce was there.
She's in the white... Is that one? Or is it the one where they're wearing all the Christmas stuff?
Oh, it could be that. I'm not sure, but he was at a party with her recently, like when she lived in her New York house, and that threw a big wrench in my estimation of when it all started to go wrong. I feel as though maybe they were like industry frenemies for a while, and Taylor was like keeping up this proxy war. And at first I remember being like, him getting on a FaceTime with Kanye and Justin, like, is that really the reason? You know what? After I've heard Thank You, Amy, after I've heard This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things, after I've heard Call It What You Want, I'm starting to think that, yes, that might be the damn reason.
That might be the damn reason. Well, all of the thing about Taylor is that I think her sense of loyalty is so strong that, like, you know, when something's important to you, to your values, when somebody who you consider even just like a, you know, secondary friend does something to you that you would never do to them, it's like that. It's like a stab moment.
It's like, on period.
Even if it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, it's a big deal to her. So like, that's it. It's like, oh, so you're going to play it like that?
I think she probably regrets linking up. So was your question about her personal life or her professional life?
Both. The professional life, but both.
I think some advice she probably shouldn't have taken that she would regret taking is waging the war against streaming services. That was some really bad advice that Scott Borchetta gave her. Because if we remember, that was all Scott. Like, that was completely driven by Scott. Music has value. Really? Yeah, it's valued $250 million in your pocket. That's what value it is. But he was really gung-ho, and he was a small label head at this point. Like, even though Big Machine had Taylor, they only had Taylor. Like, they weren't really in the space of competing with a Sony, competing with a Universal, which is why all of those labels declined to buy the label when he had it up for sale. So I think he really was thinking that he was ahead of the curve and some sort of like smart businessman by being like, Taylor, take a big stance against this. He used her as the proxy to do this stupid war that if you knew anything about technology and like how the music industry was progressing, like that was inevitable. That was never going to be stopped. And I mean, it's better than piracy too, which was the other big issue that was going on. So having Taylor be the spokesperson for that made her look really stupid in the end. And it also made her, I think, albums suffer on streaming, especially. Like Spotify straight up said when Reputation came out, she's being punished because she slandered us and she kept us off for so long, and then kept a 3-week exclusivity window of not being available on streaming for Reputation. When now that we've realized you don't need to do that to sell records, I think she thought, I won't sell as many albums if I have it on streaming, but we all know that that's not true.
Yeah, we all know that that's not true now. And you can actually see like the effect that not having her albums on streaming for how many years was it? 3 years? 4 years?
Yeah, from 2014 to 2017.
That's a long 3 years. And like the hit that her streaming numbers have taken, you might think it doesn't matter, but it's like, I just saw an infographic just today about like the biggest women in streaming all time. And Taylor wasn't number 1. She wasn't number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. She might have been 7 or 8. And I was like, Rose.
Well, if you think about it, 1989 didn't clock up as many streams as it should have, and that was her career peak, I'd say, musically at the time. Like that was, if that was available on streaming services when it should have been, like that would have popped the hell off.
Right.
So its streaming numbers to me aren't even accurate now because it only started getting tracked in 2017, 3 years after the fact.
And you know, the other thing is that now I can't even imagine. I literally can't imagine an album not going up on streaming. I can't fathom it.
Who would do that to themselves? It's counterproductive.
It's completely counterproductive. And at the time, I remember being really resentful of the fact that I had to ride for it. I was really mad.
Yeah.
I was like, don't put me in this position.
I had to pretend to care about it. Open letter to Apple Music. I mean, all of this stuff. I had to be like, yes, girl boss slay, really, while downloading Spotify. And when you're thinking about it as a consumer, and you know, Taylor's all about the fans, streaming is the best thing that's ever happened to a music lover. Well, right. In some ways and in other ways not, but mostly it's a great tool that has made music really accessible for people. So to be against it at that level, like I understand doing the Apple Music thing and being like, I want you to compensate artists fairly, but the whole I'm withholding all of my stuff because I'm so important that you're going to change it for me, it ended up making her look a bit arrogant.
And it didn't work. Although I feel like some people...
It didn't work.
The only time it worked was with that thing with Apple Music, and that's a whole different kit and caboodle. That's the truth.
A lot of people think that was a coordinated stunt. And
a lot of people named Swiftologist. A lot of people named Zachary. this is a conversation that we've had before.
Many people are saying this.
Exactly.
Many.
And I think we should open the case.
I'm saying it.
And I'm saying it.
I think also there's so many conversations that I wonder if she like regrets with Scott, because she has alluded to several times how difficult it was to be creative and to do eras and to like evolve as an artist under Big Machine. And I'm like chomping at the bit to have more information about that, what that was like for her.
Yeah, me too. That's definitely I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for the conversations about Red, some of the quote-unquote riskier songs on Red, a fly on the wall for the conversation about 1989. I would think that Reputation was an even crazier conversation than even 1989 was, because Reputation, I mean, that was really out of the woodwork if you think about it compared to all the other albums. Even just up to that point, like, she's something else, and she was something else back then.
Under normal circumstances where your biggest artist hasn't been canceled, that's a risky album to put out. Right. So I imagine that Scott, idiot Borchetta, was like, having a mental breakdown about that. But at a certain point, Taylor also said that she funded most of her activities by herself. Like she funded her music videos. She was never relying on the label for a budget, which explains a lot about how her career has able to have been so detailed and detail oriented and world building. But also it makes me think that the relationship between her and Scott and the support of the label behind her was never that strong. It was really more of a like kind of fatherly figure. I'm going to oversee and advise you as a mentor type of thing, rather than like you are my boss as my label head. But I think he probably pulled that card a few times in situations where she was like, I really do not want to be having this conversation with you, old man.
Old man. And he said,
he was like, I don't like Shake It Off. And Taylor was like, I don't give
you
the people need
to shake it off.
The people need to shake.
Yeah, I've Shake It Off. That's a really big one that I'm sure he was like, you gotta be out of your freaking mind. And then guess what? It became weddings, it became graduations, it became funerals.
It's crazy to me that when she turned in 1989, he said, that's great, can I have 3 country songs? Are you cooked? That wouldn't have made it a country album. That would have made it the worst album ever created. Imagine that, 1989, with 3 country songs tapped onto it.
I don't want to imagine that.
I'm surprised he didn't make her do Shake It Off country version. He made her do the Are Never country version.
Now that is one of the travesties, the weird versions, and then like on the inverse side, the Mine pop version. It's like those were really, really annoying things that I feel like newer fans don't even radio remix? Know about. The weird remixes that they would make of either this is a pop version of this country song or this is a country version of this pop song. Weird.
The pop version just, of Mine never sucked, by the way.
Oh, it was so bad. Like it's already a pop song. You know that, right? Mm-hmm. No, he doesn't because he doesn't know anything. This is what I've learned about Scott Borchetta. I just came up with this just now. He doesn't know anything about music, and that's on that. Does music have value? I don't know about that.
It does. No, to him, it has a $250 million price tag. That's what music has value for. Yep. $250 million in my pocket expeditiously with your stolen lullabies. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Oh, it's so ironic.
I get the sense that he was pretty maddeningly unemotional about the entire sale of her master recordings because he was at turns horribly rude about it, dismissive in public, like things that he said about it, very diminishing of her and her feelings, and then turning around and acting like it never happened. So I'm kind of like, you deserve prison. You actually need to go to jail. Meanwhile, Taylor's like, I can go anywhere I want, just not home. Like, you are an evil man. Was any of it true? Did you have it planned like this the whole time? Were you just biding your time? Like you knew once the 6th, did he know by Speak Now that come that 6th album, he was going to be like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Let's just sell it up.
That's absolutely crazy. I don't like to linger on it too much. It's like sometimes I think it's easier in my brain if I think of it like there was a big almighty row, like they had some massive fight and like it was just a big deal. But I think it's probably more likely that he just was like, so this is how it's going to go. And I still want the masters. And she was like, no. And he said,
my theory was they had a dust up over 1989. There was like a big issue because I remember she said specifically a lot of resistance for that. There was a big issue with that. And she made him look really stupid in front of his own employees by having it be a huge success. Because he was saying, you're going to be over. You'll be over if you go pop. You don't have any country. Like, we're done. And that album ended up being more successful than anything she'd ever done. So when it came to Reputation, I think because he had been so humbled by her direction from the last time, he was like, okay, do whatever you want. And really was so hands off with it. Like, do you remember Scott was not giving interviews. There was no sort of like mention of him at all. Like it really went radio silent. Whereas before, he was such a like constant figure in the TSCU. So I think after Reputation, he was like, I'll just let her do whatever because we just have one more record and then I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, that sounds just about right because there's no way. And Taylor has even alluded to it before too. You know, she said in sort of a coy way, but if you want to think about it as passive aggressive, you could too, being like, the label didn't really think that this was a good idea. They thought that it was a bad idea to do a pop record. She said it in so many words, in a nicer way, but a way that we could perhaps reflect on in today and say, perhaps there was something underneath that Scott Borchetta didn't like having said in public. But, you know, she's a girly and she'll write your name. She will write your name, ladies and gentlemen. And she did. So I think 1989 I think you're probably right. It's the source of all turmoil, if not
There's one thing you should know about me before we begin. He's got my past frozen behind glass, but I've got me.
And that's all there is to it. But I've got me.
What's your next question?